of you have your copies with you? Good, good, good. Because I want you to mark, have a pencil and mark some of these fingerings if you possibly can. All right, a couple of things, really important. The turns. I hope this metronome going wasn't too distracting for you. It certainly was getting there for me. I'm going to put this on 138, which is the 8th note. And the turns, the 4-note turns that you see there, grace notes grouped together, should be on the and of the beat. So let me show you the first measure. Did you hear that? Let me slow it down. 1 and 2 and is where that happens. And of course you want to practice it slowly. It happens again in the 3rd measure, and then it happens again later in the piece. So that's real important that your ornaments have a rhythm to them. And then when you do get it, you know, up at 69 or on the quarters, you can still hear that. 1 and 2 and 3, you got that? And that's where they get placed. Pitch-wise, you've got some places where there's some perfect fifths. Look, line 2. Can you see that red dot for my pointer? The G to the C is a perfect fifth, and man, is that a pitch problem. We get there, we're playing for a little while, we're getting tired. So you're really gonna, anytime you've got perfect fifths like that, please make sure that they're in tune. Let's talk about fingerings. Fingerings and breathing in this, and I've got to keep my eye on the clock here. Fingerings and breathing. You're going to breathe on the rest. You have two bar little ideas there with the rest, and you can breathe on every single one of those. Then we get to line 4. Line 4 is a breathing challenge. You're getting into basically no place to breathe. What I do at the end of that line is breathe after the dotted 8th. Now let me show you where you're going to learn how to do this kind of breathing. You see this measure right here with the dots? There are dotted 8ths and there are dots. They're staccatos. By the way, none of the staccatos in this piece should be really, really short. It's an andante, and it's just not going to be that short. But I'm going to play the second measure of the second line and listen to the note lengths in there. Now that gives me opportunities to take short, quick breaths. And I'm going to use that later on in that, what is line 4, at the end of the measure. The last measure of line 4. So that's where I'm going to take a real quick breath. It should probably be imperceptible to the listener that a flutist is even doing that. And then line 5, where you have the triplets, I took 2 breaths while I just played that. 2 real short breaths. Now the key is to not need the breath that much. Don't go totally empty. But you can take little bitty breaths in situations like that that are imperceptible. And then you have one later on that line that is marked. Right there you have a comma. That one truly is marked. So I'm going to take that one. And I might take another one in there, but the next spot is right there. You see there's another dotted 8 where I can breathe. And that phrase actually ends at the end of the E flat. So I'm going to take a breath after that E flat. Let me start line 6. You see, that's a good place to breathe. So those are all little spots. I did not mark my breaths in there. I want you to mark your breaths because you want to practice all of that and then work your plan so that when you actually go to compete on this music, you will have that ready to go, and you will be used to it. All right, fingerings. This one's not quite as complicated, but number one, anytime you play a middle D or a middle E flat, you need to pick up your first finger on your left hand. I call that L1. We call that venting because it lets air out this hole. So really, really important in this piece. You have several in there. Notice measure 11. I see a little bit of that going on. The line before it, measure 6, 7, 8, 9. Measure 9. You see a lot of that. Now, another thing I've done for this piece is I have marked, this is really kind of some standard marking for fingering. When you see a bracket like that and the T means that I'm going to use my thumb B flat for this piece. My thumb is just going to kind of live over here. For both of these etudes quite a bit, but particularly for this etude, it's just going to live over there. Notice I cannot use, 2 places you cannot use a thumb B flat. It's when there's a B natural and when there's a high F sharp. The high F sharp becomes a real tricky in the next etude. But in this one, just leave it off for the first 2 measures because you've got that B in the turn. Put it on in the 3rd measure. Leave it on until the end, the rest at the end of the 3rd line. Take it off because you've got to be natural, beginning of line 4, right? Then put it on and leave it on for the rest of the piece, okay? That'll really, really help reinforce you using thumb B flat. One other little tricky thing I want to point out, I didn't mention it in my notes, but this trill in line 6, I did tell you the fingering for it, but getting up to that E flat sometimes is real tricky. That's one of the reasons you want to practice those harmonics in your warm-up sessions. You want to practice a beautiful vibrato for this piece. You want to play around with expressivity. Put your metronome on an 8th note and be real strict. I'm going to play line 4. Now, did I play it that way a while ago? No, I was a lot more expressive with it. So get it very strict, but then also practice it very free. Just experiment with having fun and making beautiful phrases, beautiful ideas. And then, rhythm is really, really important, guys. Rhythm has got to be there. But you can get away with a lot of expressivity in this piece. All right, now let's look at the second one.